to Bees 101. It's mostly going to be about like bees as opposed to beekeeping, which is what I thought it would be more about. But I just really want to talk about bees for 30 minutes, so that's what we're going to talk about. For starters, there's Meredith. Does anybody know anything about bees? Slash, what they want to share?
They're insects.
Yes, they're insects.
They dance to communicate.
They do dance to communicate. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
They can talk to humans in bee movie.
Sure.
They are very important to just other plant life, pollination.
They are.
They
Very
can sense
important.
fear.
They can totally sense fear. It's often why they stay here. And they can kill, kind of. Yes.
They make honey.
They also make honey. Nice. Cool. So, sounds like you guys know some stuff. Yeah, just for starters, some general bee facts. There's 16,000 species of bees out there. There's a lot of bees. And most of the honeybees are actually indigenous to Asia. Can anybody guess how they got over here?
On boats.
Yep. Europeans, basically, on boats. And usually in one hive, there's 30,000 to 60,000 bees in one hive. It's a lot of bees, but that's the standard number. Yeah, those are just general bee facts to start out. Yeah. And I'm mostly going to be structuring the lesson first by talking a bit about bee anatomy. Then we're going to talk about members of the hive. We'll talk a little bit about bee behavior. And then we'll talk about something called colony collapse disorder, which is basically why we have low numbers of honeybees all across the world is because of this disorder. And y'all are going to want to pay attention and potentially write some things down because you'll need this information later for the lesson. What? Yeah? Sure. Yes. Meredith, you want my phone? You want me off this? Okay. Cool. So for starters, bee anatomy. I drew a little outline of a bee here on the whiteboard. Start over here. Can anybody guess how many eyes bees have?
10.
Not 10.
31.
Flip was closest. They have 5 eyes. So they have 2 compound eyes. Those are pretty small. Hold on. Can't draw upside down. Okay. 2 compound eyes, and these eyes help them to sense light and to sense shapes. And they can also pick up on UV light. And then they have 3 more eyes up here. And these eyes are for navigational purposes. And they're called 3 simple eyes up here for many things. Cool. These also have, here, I'll draw a little eye there. They have a super long tongue that comes out. Kind of looks like a tongue. And can anybody guess why they need a super long tongue?
Pollination.
Getting at the pollen beating the flower.
Close. Not pollen, though.
Nectar.
Yes, nectar. It's to extract nectar from the flower. Well, that's why they have a super long tongue. And bees also have 6 legs. But on their back 2 legs, they have something called a pollen basket. So if you've ever seen bees flying around with little yellow dust on their back legs, that's the pollen, but that's how they carry pollen, is in these little pollen baskets. They just collect it on their legs, and that's how they carry it. And also another fun fact, how many stomachs do you think bees have?
3.
Two stomachs. I was talking a little bit to Charlie about this earlier. One stomach, another stomach. Anybody potentially guess why they have two stomachs?
One to store food and one to digest food.
Yes. So the first stomach up here, when bees collect nectar, part of the nectar is stored in this first stomach. If everybody can see, it's closest to their head. And the nectar in here is for making honey for the hive. But sometimes when the bees need that nectar for their own nutrition, it will pass through to their second stomach, where it will be fully digested. And how honey is made is like it gets prepared in this front stomach, and then it's kind of like regurgitated up through their mouth, and then there's honey for the hive. Yeah. Cool. So this is the diagram. You can keep that there. Cool. A little bit about the bee life cycle. It takes 21 days for a little bee egg to become a full adult bee. They start out by being laid as an egg. And does anybody know how many eggs queens can lay per day in a hive?
1,000,000.
Not quite that high.
5,000.
100,000.
Not quite that high.
500.
1,000.
More than that.
4,000.
500.
More.
5,000.
750.
6 billion.
Flip is on it today.
How
On it. It's between 1,000 and 3,000 eggs per day. That queens can lay eggs. So they start out as eggs, and eventually they'll become larvae, and they're laid in the little honeycombs. I kind of have a picture here. So I don't know how well you guys can see this. Can you see these yellow dots here?
Yeah.
Okay, yellow dots. And these in real life look more domey as they're coming out of each little individual honeycombs. But this is called brood, and this is where the bees grow, where they transform from egg to larva to pupa to eventually adult honeybee. And what happens when they go from larva to pupa, pupa's like just before the adult stage. And when they're finally ready to become an adult honeybee, they'll chew their way out of the comb, and then they'll immediately be put to work. So yeah, this is called brood. They look like this, little yellow domes. Yeah, cool. So that's a little bit of bee anatomy. Next, we'll talk about members of the hive.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So when people eat honeycomb, do the bees ever put honey back into those little...
They do. That's
Okay,
where
so
they...
you're not actually eating bees.
No, you're not eating brood. No. No, the comb will be completely like cleaned out once
And then
the
they
bees hatch.
put honey back in.
Yeah, then they can put honey back
Okay.
in. So you're
So
never.
they do like part of the comb at a time, have babies in it, and then fill it with honey?
Yeah, usually what happens when you're looking at a frame in a hive, the honey will be stored on top, and the brood will grow at the bottom. That's where they're safer. Yeah, that's how they're separated. Cool. So now we're gonna talk about members of the hive. Cool. So there are 3 main members of the hive. The first one, which is the one you'll probably see the most, is called the worker bee. Does anybody know anything about worker bees specifically?
They collect the honey.
Yes.
Female?
Yes, they're female. That's really important. Worker bees basically do all the work in the hive. They collect the honey. They mostly help build the hive. They forage for pollen. And worker bees make up 95% of the hive. All right. Is that a 9? no. Wait. Wait, no.
You can turn around.
95% of the hive. And they're all female. So 95% of hives are all female bees, like running their hive. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite facts. Another important thing, they're also sterile. They can't reproduce. That's also important. Cool. Oh, I meant to, hold on. I have some more pictures. Okay, never mind. I'll show pictures in a second. The second member of the hive is called a drone. Can anybody guess what sex they are?
Male.
They're male bees. They make up basically like the rest, like 5% of the hive. Their sole purpose is to mate with the virgin queen. So remember how worker bees are sterile? They can't mate with those bees. They can only find virgin queens that haven't been mated with yet. And one way you can like identify them, and I'll show a picture of this in a second, is they're generally bigger than the female bees, the worker bees, and they have super, super big eyes. Here, I can try to get a picture up here. No, people can see this that well. The drone is over to the left. You see the super big eyes that they have? Anybody see?
Just the size of head.
Yeah.
Why do they have super big eyes if they like only have the job of mating? Like
Not
they
sure.
don't fly around.
Not sure.
They just do.
They just do. I don't know.
So can only one drone mate with one virgin queen?
Usually, yeah.
Then what happens to the drone after they mate?
This is my all-time favorite fact. Okay. So basically what happened is the drone will mate with the queen while flying in the air. And what happens is like they mate, he inserts like his like little bee penis inside the queen. And what happens is when like he ejects it, it turns inside out, and this is like an audible popping noise that you can hear if you're like really close to it, and that basically causes the bee to die, like kind of explodes. And
Should we be concerned that that's your favorite fact that men are only
Yeah,
flying?
that's a little disconcerting.
sorry,
love
but
it.
it is.
Wow, I
It's really
love it.
funny. So and that mating process takes like all of 5 seconds. So it's like 5 seconds, mate, bam.
And then
Yeah.
the queen goes and finds, like, makes a hive.
Usually, or we'll come back to the hive. Yeah. Mhm.
It only needs that one form of 5 seconds to lay all those eggs forever until it dies.
Wait, what? Sorry.
Like it only takes like one insemination from the
Mhm.
drone for that queen
To
to
lay
lay
all the eggs. Yeah.
between 1 and 3,000 eggs a day until she dies.
Basically. Yeah.
Oh.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Really, men are worthless.
No, they're very important. They're very important for continuing bees to reproduce. So then that leaves the last member of the hive, which is the queen. Yay! So the hive really can't function without the queen. She's the head of the hive. Whenever there isn't a queen present, the hive just kind of goes into chaos. And like, if they don't make another queen, which I'll talk about in a second, then that's one way that they can die. She's the biggest bee in the hive. Drones are pretty close, but I'll show this picture again. You can kind of see the queen over on the right. She has a really elongated body. Anybody see that? Yeah, maybe pass it around.
So I'll show that one on the other side.
Oh, this is what I was looking for. Here we go. You can also pass this around. This is the difference between drones, queens, and workers. You can pass that around. So how is a queen made? Anybody have any ideas?
Combining two workers together.
No. Creative.
By democratic vote.
What?
Majority vote.
Just democratic decision making. So queens are actually made from birth. What happens is when eggs are laid, what happens is the bees will produce something called royal jelly. I'm gonna write that down.
Say royal.
Royal
jelly?
They produce royal jelly. This is important.
Royalty.
Royal jelly. And this is what they feed the baby bees growing up, so that they'll like grow into adult bees. But eventually, most bees will transition out of feeding the larva or the brood royal jelly, and they'll feed it like honey, pollen, and stuff. But some combs remain, or they keep feeding that brood royal jelly, and that's how queens are made. They're only fed royal jelly when they're baby bees, or not baby bees, growing up. So bees will feed or feed multiple brood cells royal jelly, and the first one to hatch is the queen, and then the other ones that were fed royal jelly will unfortunately have to be killed because you cannot have two queens.
Oh, vicious.
Yeah.
Do they eat them or what?
Don't usually eat them. They'll maybe like behead them. Yeah.
What
Savage.
happens to the old queen when there's a new queen?
Well, like if this only happens if the queen dies, or like sometimes what will happen in a hive. 15. Okay, thank you. Sometimes what will happen is the hive will split if it's getting too crowded, or they'll swarm, and that's when the queen will take like about half of the colony or so and find a new place, and then the remaining hive will need to produce a new queen. Yeah. So, cool.
So if there's only like one queen in that long period, there's like 5% of the, like all the drones just like don't do anything. It's just like,
Yeah,
or do they fly to other hives?
they might go to another hive. Yeah.
So what is the lifespan of a queen bee? Like, how old do they become?
It depends. I'm actually not quite sure how long. She can live for a pretty long time though. I would say maybe 2-3 years. And what happens is like she'll eat she'll get fed food, and then eventually she won't be able to fly around. Like she just kind of waddles in the hive, like she literally can't fly. So either then like she'll get so like bad can't die or fly that she'll end up dying, or she has to like work out or like stop eating less or be fed less in order to be able to fly. Yeah.
What's like the average lifespan of like a worker?
Depends. I should know this. I actually don't really know the answer. Probably around the same, maybe like 5-ish years. I would say. Yeah.
As Charlie gets old.
Yeah. And as they get older, like their first jobs are in the hive, building the hive. But as they get older and like they know they're like more towards the end of dying, like they'll go like fly out and do the foraging because that's the riskiest job. So all the bees that we see that are collecting pollen and nectar, like those are the oldest members of the hive. And they're more likely to sting you like if you mess with them because they're older and they have less stake.
Why is it a
Anyway.
risky job?
Hmm?
Why is that riskier?
Just because like you're outside of the safety of the hive, there's like the weather elements, there's humans, there's other creatures that could eat you, there are other insects that could eat you. You're straying really far away. Usually bees don't get lost on their way back to the hive, but they could potentially get lost. Yeah, okay, sorry, I have to curtail questions now because I have some more to get through in an activity. Okay, next is bee behavior. Cool. Sorry. Nice. Okay. So what's really important to know is that the hive itself, or bees, operate as a superorganism. They don't really operate on the basis of their own individual needs. All that they do is for the hive. It's like kind of like our group, sort of. They're like a superorganism, and hives are like a superorganism. Good analogy. Okay. Cool. The next thing to know, there are 3 different kinds of spaces for a bee. If the space is smaller than the bee, what bees will do is they'll fill that space with what's called propolis, and that's like bee super glue. So in a hive, like if there are little cracks along the edges, they're gonna fill that with propolis, and it's really, really hard to get it unstuck. And that's where hive tools come in, is to get it unstuck. This prevents like pests and diseases from coming in, which protects against the elements. So propolis. Okay. If the space is bigger than a bee, then they're gonna fill that space with honeycomb, which is made out of beeswax. And that's basically like the structure that they live in. And if the space is just like the same size as the bee, then they'll use it as like a bee door. Yeah. So Flip touched on this earlier. We'll talk a little bit about bee communication now. And one of the ways they do that is with something called the waggle dance. So what happens here? Is whenever like a bee goes out foraging and they find like some flowers or something that has a lot of good like pollen and nectar, you see that? They'll come back to the hive and they'll start moving around in like a little figure 8 formation, and they'll just keep doing that until all the bees will notice, and they'll orient themselves in the direction that they found through like really good pollen or nectar source. And how big like these loops are correlates to how far away the source is. Yeah, so that's one way that bees will communicate with each other, is the waggle dance. Another way they communicate with each other is by giving off alarm pheromones. So this happens when they get really stressed, and like if some humans are disrupting them, whatever, they'll set off an alarm pheromone. Has anybody smelled that before?
It smells like
chance?
bananas.
Yes.
Like what?
It smells like
Bananas.
Yes. So if you smell bananas and you're around a bunch of bees, know that they're setting off an alarm pheromone, and that's only going to keep making them more stressed. Cool. So that's bee behavior. Cool. So now we'll talk about colony collapse disorder. Last thing before a little activity. Hopefully I'll have time for it. Cool. So colony collapse disorder, like remember how we talked about bees operate as a superorganism? This is the collapse of the superorganism. So like killing bees like by themselves individually, like sure it's sad to see, but that's not what's killing bees at alarming rates. It's this. And usually the symptoms of it, you won't see any low or like a minimal amount or no adult honeybees in a hive, but the queen is still there, and there might still be honey there. And usually you'll also see some kind of pest or disease that's there. And I'll talk about the most common one in a second. Some common causes of it. Does anyone want to take a guess? What some of
Pesticides.
Pesticides. That's one.
Death of a queen and successor.
Sure, that's another one. That's the queen, no successor, or the strength of the hive cannot produce another one.
Climate change.
Climate change, maybe. Not a huge one, but a little bit.
Not enough food.
Not enough food. That could be one. What I'm mostly looking for, like, are pesticides, winters, or varying temperatures, like Adam said. Transportation is a huge one in the commercial bee industry. Transportation really, really stresses bees out and really lowers their immune system and ways to protect themselves. So that's one of the big causes right there is transportation. And pests and diseases is another huge one. The most common being the varroa mite. Yeah. They're these like little tiny mites. I will like hop on top of a bee's like back, and if you think about like a honey, like think about a bunny being attached to your back all the time. That's what it's like for a varroa mite to be like attached to a bee. That's what the varroa mite does. And just like sucks out the nutrients. Cool. How much time? Oh boy. Okay. So I wanted to do a quick game of trivia. I think we still can. This is why I recommended taking some notes, potentially. So we're going to split up into two teams. That can be one team. You guys can be another team. Cool. So whenever either you individually have the answer or you talk with your team and you come up with an answer, guess what you're gonna say? Bee.
Buzz.
Yep.
No, God.
You're gonna say bzz, and then you answer, and I'll tell you if it's right or not. And if it is, you get a point. If not, the other team can get it. What are we getting food with?
More honey.
My love and affection eternally.
Yay.
Forever. Eternally. All right.
He's gonna give us one of the Ithaca College hives.
Yeah, that will happen. Sure. I actually do have some extra hives we need to get rid of, so if you want hives.
Oh, I'll take
like,
Whoa,
come up
get
with-
out.
Talk to me later.
Seriously?
Yeah, talk
Okay.
to me later. Okay. All right. Question number 1. How many stomachs do bees have? And wait, I wasn't done with the question. Wait. How many stomachs do bees have and what are they used for? Alright, heard John
That's
first.
definitely me.
They have 2 stomachs.
Yep.
The first stomach closest to their head is, excuse me? It's for storing nectar that they turn into honey by regurgitation, and then when they need their own nutrients, they put that nectar down into their second stomach to
Yes.
digest it.
Right. Alright, 1 point for team. What do you want to call
Hive.
yourselves? Pie?
No.
No,
No.
no,
No.
no.
Pie cake. Patty cake, whatever. Okay. 1 point. Pancake. Pea cake. Alright. Next question. A lot of these are 2-parters, so wait for me to finish. How long is a bee life cycle, and what are bees called before they hatch?
They're broods,
Yeah.
and then the life cycle, is that like
21 days.
Yes.
What
Yay.
about pupa?
Good job. Yes. Alright, what are you guys calling yourselves?
We're called Queen Bee.
What?
Spelled Beyonce.
yes.
Queen Beyonce. I spelled that really wrong. Okay. 1 point. Spelled Beyonce wrong? I don't know. I spelled it with 2 E's.
It's not that
Beyonce.
Okay. Alright. Question 3. Another 2-parter. So, what are the 3 types of bees in the hive, and how can you tell them apart? Adam.
Oh, what?
So we got
No
a queen,
way.
a drone, and a worker.
Oh, cheater.
Cheating.
Minus a point.
Disqualified.
Yes,
No.
minus points.
I was using the resources given to me.
Minus points.
And if you want me to answer without it, I
No,
can.
you already
There's
did.
Minus
a
points.
queen,
No,
a drone,
no,
and a worker.
no.
The drone's got a really big eyes and a really fat, and the queen is heard all my
No,
answers.
no,
Disqualified as
no.
All right, give me the answer.
Does someone else want to answer?
I got it. It's
Okay.
queen. You got a worker, and you got the drone. Drones have really huge eyes. The queen just has a really long body, and sometimes they can get really fat.
Yep. Right. Good job. Okay. Question 4. How is the queen made? Emily.
They're fed royal jelly all the way up until they're a like full bee.
BB?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good job. All right. Question
You
5.
forgot the part about how the one that hatches first is actually.
Yeah.
We can have the point.
Just the one.
No.
And then
No.
you had the rest.
They should.
No,
one part.
no.
No.
Well, they are
It's
the
fine.
queen until that happens, so.
1.5. All right. Question 5. What are the 3 types of spaces for a bee, and what are they filled with? I was not done with the question yet. All right, over here.
So there's
The
the one.
honeycomb that's bigger than that.
Yes.
Yeah, and they fill it with beeswax.
The bee door, the size of the bee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is the same size, and then propolis, which
Propolis is smaller.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like super.
Yes, it is. Good job. All right.
Nice. Good job over
Cool. All right.
Keep it up, man.
Question 6. We got 3 more. All right. Question 6. What happens to male bees when they mate?
Their penis gets sucked inside of them, and it pops, and then they die.
Good detail.
Basically.
Within 5 seconds.
Okay.
That's a half a point.
That's a half a point.
That's a half a point. That's a half a point.
Half a point.
You left
That's a
out
half a
one
point.
little detail.
One little detail.
Yeah,
okay,
does
can we go to
anybody
the
know it?
team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the team.
You get out.
So the question was what happens to them when they die?
Oh no,
What
I know.
happens
It's
to
really
male bees
loud.
when they mate?
Oh, when they
the
mate.
pop sound. When they mate? Oh,
Yeah.
well, they inseminate the queen.
Yeah.
Then the penis comes
It-
out and
Yes.
into their body.
Inside out.
Inside out. Inside out. That's what
Nice.
And it's really loud
cool.
I said
for
that.
5 seconds.
Kind of.
Not for about.
Not
No,
Point-
it's not
point
really loud.
five.
5 seconds. That's
Point five.
wrong. Minus point.
Point
All
5.
right. 2 more questions.
You should have only 2.5 right now, by the way.
Yeah, they should.
No.
Okay. Question 7. What is colony collapse disorder, and what are some causes? Emily.
All right. So colony collapse disorder is when the hive. You said the hive doesn't have a lot of adult bees, and then essentially the whole structure is just kind of thrown into chaos. There might be there might be a queen and not really any other bees. Some common causes are like mites, disease, pesticide, transportation, winter. Yeah.
Cool. Good job.
2
Point.
points.
1 point. All right. Last question. We'll see if anybody can remember this one.
Can we wager points for this one?
What's the score right now? Is this Jeopardy?
Okay.
It's
You have
3.5 to
3.5 and 4.
No,
No,
because we got that half point 'cause they
no.
lost a half point.
No.
No.
That is not
No.
That's how it
3.5,
happened.
4. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Remove
Last
head from
question.
sphincter and then
Last
talk.
question. How many bees are commonly in one hive?
Meh.
Maddie. Yes.
Nice,
Maddie.
Clean out your ears,
4.5.
Judge. That should be 3.5, but okay.
All right. Queen Beyonce wins.
Incredible ball.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cheaters.
So
Cheaters.
just to close up, we're running out of. I'm a little bit over time, but basically, I'd like you all to write down your favorite bee fact that you learned today.
Favorite or most disturbing?
Either is fine.
Okay.
The one that stands out the most to you, and maybe we can we don't have to share them right now, but we can share them throughout the day with each other. What we learned and what we like.
You forgot to share that bees don't sleep.
Oh yeah, they don't sleep. I wrote that down. I forgot to share. They never sleep.
My favorite fact
Yeah.
is how you can kill a bee and it doesn't actually do
Well, I mean, that's not a license for you to go around killing bees.
Yeah.
Please.
What's this, the queen?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah,
one
the
bee you
bee
kill is the
killing
queen?
Also, I forgot to pass around a couple things. I have some pictures. I have a graph that shows colony collapse disorder and how it's been increasing and decreasing from 2012 to 2013.
Wait, can we just see
People
these
would
here real quick and then pass
Yeah.
them?
here's a graph, one graph. I have this picture still if anybody would like to reference this. What?
Is it allowed? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see how
Um,
that's using your notes.
I also meant to split you up into two groups and try to identify the queen, worker, and drone with these. You guys can practice a little bit.
Oh, boom.
Yes.
All these big eyes.
So there's that. Do that for a couple minutes.
Awesome. Thanks,
Bring
Katie.
that in. Yeah. So cool. Write down your favorite bee fact and share with each other. These are really important.
There's a queen.
Yep.
There's a drone.
Yep.
There's the workers.
Yeah. Nice. So, yay. That's it. Thank